Hello and welcome to another deep dive video. My name is Jackson and joining me again is my colleague Dominic Simsion. Today's video will be centered around a new master services agreement use case and use case template, which will be released in the upcoming 10.7 platform update. Now, as a recap, use case and use case templates are a relatively new feature to our platform, and it aims to solve the blank canvas dilemma, the catch-22, that while everyone wants the tools to be creators, no one really wants to start from ground zero. Now, our MSA use case and use case template is designed to provide our customers a foundation to build an end-to-end workflow solution that automates the creation, negotiation, and execution of open-ended contractual workflows like MSAs and corresponding schedules for new and existing commercial arrangements. Now, a really cool feature that we've built into this particular use case and template is the ability to not only store previously executed MSAs, but also the ability to search and locate those contracts to expedite the creation of further business terms with newly generated SOWs or schedules. Now, Dom will be demoing both the MSA use case and template today. There is a slight distinction between the two terms and how they fit together. So let me briefly give you an overview. Now, use cases are fully built, runnable digital solutions, which are made available to our customers. Although pre-configured by our team, each minute use case detail, your logic, your functionality, your content, can be configured by each customer to suit their own individual needs. Now, use case templates are skeleton versions of use cases, which customers can customize or extend. Use case templates come with step-by-step instructions and can serve as an inspiration or a reference for your own workflow solution. Now, modular building blocks are fully built, meaningful, functionality-specific solutions, which through simple, no-code, plug and play, can be connected to use cases or use case templates. Building blocks include functions like third-party integrations into DocuSign and Box, negotiation capabilities, and approval workflows. So over to you, Dom, for the demo.
Alrighty, thanks, Jackson. So up on screen, what you should see now is a workflow card. So this MSA use case template is essentially what we're providing to our customers via the library. So if you go into the library tab, you'll be able to find a MSA use case workflow. And when you import it, it will create a card just like this. And what I'm going to do today is just go through a little bit about the workflow and what we've set up, and then go through a bit of a demo as to what it looks like for the end user. So it's called MSA use case template, but it doesn't necessarily, MSA being master services agreement, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a master services agreement. The idea is that it's a master agreement of any kind, and then a schedule that also can get created using this template. So we've provided a template, and I'll just jump into the workflow to show you what it looks like, which you can essentially add in your document, your master agreement, and add in your schedule. And then if you want to, you can change around the workflow as suits, but this is to really give you a kickstart to creating that use case. So I'm just going to zoom out so you can see it in a bit more context. So what we've got here is two different pools. So this one up here is the initiator pool, and the one down here is the customer pool. And you can rename all of these as suits, and that goes for anything in the application. So you can change any of the content, any of the terminology that we've used. Feel free to change that. So what we've got though is an initiator as the initial kind of starting of the template, so creating the document. So let's just zoom in here so we can have a look at that. So we have the first user run through this app called MSA Initiate. And that application essentially gathers a lot of core information like the company name, contact details, that sort of thing. At that point, you can either be creating an agreement for a new customer, in which case you go down this path, or it's for an existing customer, in which case you go down this path here. So I'll just chat through the path where you've got a new customer. So you come into the application, you select that you've got a new customer, and then it's the master agreement application. So this is the application where you do the most amount of work, which is really kind of focused on marking up the document. So you get your document and bring it into the application, and then it's part of the whole workflow. So that's the key piece that you kind of add into it, and then the workflow is all built already around it, although you can configure it. So the user goes through, they would basically answer any questions that you've got in terms of automating your master agreement, but we've already got a lot of the key details in this initial application. So you don't have to re-ask anything like company name, details, etc. That's all already gathered for you. So it's just anything particular to your master agreement that you want to add in that's unique for you. So the user would answer those questions, and then the master agreement gets sent off to the customer. So this is the customer or counterparty who's having a look at your MSA for review. And what we've got here is the open negotiation building blocks. So if you look in the library, there's a building block called open negotiation. And what that allows is the negotiation of a document. So it starts off with this application here, where the user can have a look at the document, review it, make any changes that they want. And if they do have changes, it goes through this path here and back up to the original user. And then if the original user, they can have a look at the document, review it, and then it sends back to the customer, following down here, back into that same application where the customer can decide if they're happy with it, or if not, then they can make further changes, and it goes around in a loop. If they don't want to make any changes though, they will essentially agree to the document, and then it goes down this pathway. At that point, the customer identifies who's going to sign the document, and it gets sent off to that signatory, and the user, this customer signatory here, comes in and signs the document. And this little section here is our DocuSign building blocks. So again, these are actually standalone building blocks that you can access in the library tab, and they essentially integrate with DocuSign without you needing to know any coding. So there's instructions on setting all of these up in terms of, for example, you need to connect your DocuSign account in, but there's no kind of coding necessary to get these set up. So the user would come through here, they sign in DocuSign, and then if you follow this trail, the signatory for the initiator then signs, and an email is sent off at the end, and that's the end of the workflow. So that's the creation, the negotiation, and the signing of the MSA through the workflow. And then the alternate path is that you've actually come in and there's already an existing MSA for the customer. You've come in and you select that there's an existing customer, and then you can create a schedule to that MSA or just general master agreement, whatever document that you've got. So you create a schedule for that. And what we've got set up is that it actually doesn't go through the negotiation process. We figured this was less likely to need negotiation. It's a smaller document. And in this case, it goes through, it sends off an email, which jumps all the way down here and goes back to the original signatory of the MSA for signing. So that one's quite a quick process. You create the schedule, it goes off for signature, and then again goes back to the initiator for the counter signature there, and then completes. So this one's a much kind of quicker pathway, but because it's a template, you can change it however you'd like it to. So if you do want to be able to negotiate the schedule, what you can do is add in the negotiation building blocks for the schedule side of things. Or you can always, if you don't want to be able to negotiate the master agreement, you can pull that out if you don't want that there. Same with the DocuSign signatures down here. You can pull these out if you don't want to be signing online, or you can replace them with a different integration. And as well as add in kind of further things if you want to, like filing the document at the end in your own organization's document storage platform. and basically make any of the changes that you need to adjust for your workflow. But the idea is you want to use this if you're finding that you've got a use case that really quite matches up with this workflow, so that you can leverage the abilities of this workflow that are pre-built for you. So if you're finding your workflow differs a little bit too much from this, you may want to start with a different template or start with a new workflow. But this is if you have, you've got a document, you want to negotiate it, you've got e-signatures in there, and then you want to create a schedule to that document. This would be a good template to start with. So that's a bit about the workflow. Now I'm just going to jump over to our use case version of this, which is basically us taking this template and then adding in a little bit of design to it, as well as our document. So if I run the use case template at the moment, it's just got essentially a default theme there for you. So you can have a look at it. This is what it will look like out of the box. And then what we've done is basically we've taken a copy of this and then added a Neota style theme. So you can add your own customer theme in there. And then we've also added in our document. So that will just give you a better idea of how it actually all comes together once you've added your document in. So I'll just jump over here. So this is the use case, so slightly different. We've just added in that document and the theme, so you'll be able to see that when I run it. It just looks slightly different. We've got a bit of an overview of the solution, picture of the workflow, and then when we get into it, it's actually the same as the template. It just has a different theme applied to it. So the way that this works is that new or existing customer question comes up. So as you saw in the workflow, this is a very kind of important question to determine which path the user's going down. So we'll say new customer for now, and we'll just say, hey. And I'll basically kind of run through these, just populating in some details as we're going, and you'll see how it all kind of comes together. So this is just the user coming in and putting in their initial details. So for the customer that they want the MSA for, this is the details of that customer. So we've got the initiator just populating in some details at the start. Then it's asking for your details, which I've got auto-populated. And then it jumps over to the actual creation of the agreement. So this is a very small bit that we've added in for our document. We've just got some kind of sample questions, for example, governing law. So this populates some text in the document. This one is about whether or not you want to include or exclude a particular clause. So some very kind of simple logic here going on, just to show you how we've automated our document. So we'll put some answers in there. And then we've got some details about the schedule. So what we've done is set it up so that it actually creates the master services agreement and the schedule attached to it at the bottom. So this is the first one that we're creating with the customer. So it's got the master services agreement automated there with our information populated in. So you can see just down the bottom, that's just the contact that I've just entered in with the customer. And down the bottom, we've got the schedule attached. So that's how we've decided to mark it up, so that we've got the MSA and the schedule all in one at the start. So this is the business user finishing off, and they're ready to approve and send. At this point, an email is sent off. So if I jump over to my email, we'll be able to see an email has come through, which is to the customer. So this is for the customer to review the document, and if they want to make any changes. So we'll load that up. And this is just the introduction to the open negotiation building block. You can certainly remove this, as with other text in the application, to suit. So as the user comes in, we're now the customer reviewing the document. So you've got the option to edit offline, so you can choose that option, or you can edit online using this interface. So if you want to make any changes, you can, for example, remove that. And then you go through this option here. So further changes are required, and it goes through a loop that goes back to the business user who gets to review the changes, and it can go back and forth until essentially no changes are required. I won't go through that path now because it can take a little while, but there is a video on specifically the open negotiation building blocks. So you can take a look at that if you're interested in that workflow. So I'll just undo that change there and just say, imagine they're happy with it at this point. So they've said no changes are required. All right, so once they've said no changes are required, they then need to identify the correct signatory for the document. So just put in some test information here. And that will then get sent off to the signatory. So we're at the workflow process portion where it goes for e-signatures. So that's now been sent off, and we'll get an email. And this user is then invited to sign the document. So we've received an email, and again, you can change all of the email text as well. And this will reroute the user through to DocuSign. All right, so we're now in DocuSign, and the user can go through the document and add their signature in the correct places. This is one way that you can implement DocuSign, so you can have it so that you're actually choosing where things drop in. So for example, I can move around my signature, I can add the date in there, or in here, because at the moment I'm the customer signing. But you can also implement this in a way where it's actually fixed locations. For this one though, we've enabled the user to choose where things go. So because it's got the schedule at the bottom as well, we've got this location also to drop our signature and the date signed. And then the user finishes up. So hit finish there. That basically takes them back to the application, which gives them a message that they've finished. And then at this point, it goes back to the business user for signature, and you'll go through and the user will also sign the document. Now we've got our fully signed MSA agreement. So that actually gets filed away. So you can access it in the workflow, so that we've just finished it off there. And you can then access it via the sessions view. You can basically track this the whole time it's going along. And you can access, for example, the fully signed agreement. So you can see that one 21 seconds ago was the one we've just done. And as it's actually going through, it's also recording an audit history of that document. So there's a few things that are being tracked, but one of them is the MSA document. So especially when it's going through that negotiation process, you can see at each stage what the document looked like and download a copy of it from here. The other thing that I'll just run through briefly is on the other side, once you've finished the MSA, you can now create schedules for that customer. So you come into the application again and kick it off again, but instead of selecting the new customer, you're now selecting the existing customer whose name was customer A from memory. So yep, we've got customer A there. And now if I hit continue, it pulls back the document that we just generated. So if we just scroll down here, you'll see those signatures that I've just put on there. So the user can review the fully signed MSA. They can also confirm the details, and then they generate the schedule. So on the next page, we've automated our schedule, which is a very short schedule, but you could essentially have in any schedule that you want. So confirm the details again, and any sort of questions that you want here for your automated document, you can add in to generate your schedule. So at this point, you can basically enter in all of the special details for the schedule, and that will get generated. and that will then go through the e-signature process in the same way that the master services agreement went through. I won't run that again because it's the same thing happening, but you can see the idea of the workflow and what happens at this stage in the process. So that is sort of, in a nutshell, the kind of end-to-end process of the MSA use case, and the example that we've just shown you is how we've implemented our document. But all of that functionality is already there, already built for you in this template. You just need to add in your document. So there's instructions on how to do all of this and set it up in the use manual. You can follow through. And of course, our customer success team is always happy to help. So thanks for watching and happy building.